Welcome to Paul's Passive House. We're back in the attic, and this should look pretty familiar. Last time we were up here, we were looking at my HVAC and all of the polyiso that was installed. We noted that it's all airtight and it's completely thermally broken. And that thermal barrier goes from the walls up through the attic to the very top of the attic over to the other side and to the other wall. You can see in this picture I have a 12-inch round trunk with offshoots. They're not installed yet, but you can see where the offshoots are going to come from. Those are going to feed 6-inch HVAC ducts that will ventilate the entire house. You can also see that I've filled in the fiberglass insulation. Now I'm going to continue to fill it in to this middle space as I work my way out of the attic. To the right there, I've covered up my return air duct. And here we get a close-up of the HVAC and my HRV. That's my heat recovery ventilator. That's the black 6-inch flexible duct running right down the middle. That's going to feed hospital quality air into my house, and it's also going to expel any used air. With this picture now, you can see that I'm completely out of the attic, and I'm in the attic space that's above my garage. Now I'm going to be putting a wall up in my garage so that I have a half garage for bicycles and maybe a go-kart. And then the other half is going to be my utility room. What you're looking at here is the HRV duct that feeds fresh air into the house, the duct that takes stale air out of the house, the HVAC duct that feeds air into the house, and the HVAC duct that pulls air out of the house. So I've got a balanced system. Now the HVAC that takes air out of the house is covered, but you can see it if I point at it, and you'll see it again later. At this stage of the retrofit, I've got all the polyiso in, and now I'm filling in all of this excess space with fiberglass. That fiberglass that you're looking at there, the yellow fiberglass in the middle, is 3 feet high. There are 11 or 12 layers of fiberglass there. Each layer is 3.5 inches. Plus I've got fiberglass between the ceiling joists and 3.5 inches of polyiso foam. What you're looking at here is the garage. This is the attic space above my garage. Now, before I did any of this work, I had the garage sprayed with expanding foam, closed cell expanding foam. Here I'm pointing at, this is the roof deck, and you can see that's where the 2x4 is. That's the bottom side of my roof over the garage. So I had a particularly difficult time designing this aspect of the retrofit because it's different than the other. The roof deck over my living space is ventilated, but this is not. And this was a prototype of how I was going to insulate this space. Now, I didn't end up going with this construction method. Instead, I went with what I'm about to show you now. Taking a closer look now at the attic space above my garage, which is also going to be my utility room, we can see that I've filled in most of the space with fiberglass. The spaces that aren't filled in are reinforced with the 3.5-inch polyiso. Everywhere where I put polyiso, underneath that is fiberglass. And I've built a little fiberglass bridge over the very top of the roof. Now, pausing here for a moment, you can take a look at the attic over my living space. That's now completely filled in with fiberglass, all up to 3 feet high, very close to the bottom of the polyiso. And if we peek over, you can see the air return for my HVAC. Now that vent is a 12-inch vent, and it's going to eventually hook into a furnace or a whole home ventilator. Looking back to the left, you can't even see the 12-inch trunk that I installed that distributes air to the entire house. That's covered in fiberglass, and I've actually filled it in to keep air from moving around. The total thickness of fiberglass in this particular space is about 5 layers, and that's boosted with the spray foam and the fiberglass that's between the roof deck studs and the 3.5 inches of polyiso. If we take a walk through my garage, you can see that it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. Now, this space where the garage door is at the moment just fiberglass, but it will get polyiso, and I filled in the corners with fiberglass. I had to use a couple different kinds of products, different thicknesses because of my garage door, but I also cut out some holes for the electricity. And if we pause here, you can see it's this half that's going to be my utility room. On the right, we've got my HVR, heat recovery ventilator. In the middle, there's my hot water heater, and that is been updated now to a heat pump water heater. Right next to that, you see my radon fan, and then right next to that is my laundry area. The laundry that you're looking at right now is my old washer. That's the white one. And the dark colored one is actually a washer and dryer all in one. It's really highly efficient, and it has a 120 volt outlet that powers it, which makes it very ideal for such a small house. I only have 100 amps to work with total in this house, and therefore getting a dryer that does not use 30 amps was key. But this is essentially going to be my utilities room. I'm going to put up a wall here. I'm going to seal it with zip sheathing, and I'm going to carry that wall up into the attic space above the garage so that it's completely broken from the garage area. And that is to comply with code. You can't have a garage, like a typical garage, be part of the HVAC footprint. I want to make sure that I build this to code. So if we move through my utility room, you get a closer look at my water heater and at some of the PEX tubing that I used to hook it up to the water source. You also take a look behind the radon fan and see that that's all been insulated. All the walls have been covered in polyiso. And again, because I did the spray foam in here on the walls, it's all airtight. Taking a closer look at my HRV here, that black box is where my HEPA filter is. That filters all the air that comes in from outside. It then goes into the HRV to exchange all of the conditioned air with the new air from outside. Taking a look, you see how the new air that's freshly filtered goes into the HRV and comes out the other side and then is then distributed into the house. You can also see where the air is taken out of my house and sent outside to make sure that the system is balanced. If we take a look inside the HRV unit, you see that I have two filters, one for incoming air and one for outgoing air. And also that big cube is a polyethylene exchanger. Now what it essentially is, it's made out of plastic yard signs, or I call them yard signs because I've done some real estate work, but they're essentially fluted plastic sheets. So they have little channels where the air can go through, and they're just alternated. Every other sheet is fluted in a different direction. And what that does is it allows for the exhaust air to pass next to the incoming air and transfer its temperature into the incoming air. So the interior air of my house is conditioned. It's either cooled or it's heated. That cooling and heating is transferred into the fresh air through that manifold. It's a very simple idea that works incredibly efficiently. While we're on the topic of heat recovery ventilators, I want to stress the importance of having a ventilator. When you have a really tight house, such as a passive house, you still want your home to breathe, but you don't want it to breathe in the traditional way that people think of homes as breathing, by having gaps and cracks everywhere and so on. You still want air exchanges in your home, you just want them controlled. What you're looking at right here is the HEPA filter that I use to filter the incoming air. The filter on the top is a used HEPA filter. It's been used for 30 days. The filter on the bottom is a brand new filter. Look at just how much disgusting debris and filth is in the air. I can't stress enough how much of an improvement to your quality of life having an air filtration system like this is. The difference is like night and day. Not only do I have hospital quality pure air in my house, but because I also have incorporated a carbon filter, it's completely ozone free. It's completely chemical free. And these filters take out all bacteria, all mold, all spores, all fungi, and all viruses. It's an incredibly comfortable and safe space, my house is. And that's all because of this filtration system. The difference in quality of life from having dirty air to having perfectly clean air is really difficult for me to explain to you. It's something that you kind of just have to experience for yourself. And I highly recommend that you do. Even if you can't afford a whole home filtration system like this one, I still highly recommend that you get HEPA filtration units in your bedrooms and in your living rooms that have activated carbon filters incorporated into them. I still use mine. I have 2 right now in my home. They're rated at, I think, 400 square feet each, and I keep them on all the time. And that's for pet dander and some of the other particulates that you're going to bring into your house, just going in and out of the house and so on. And again, I just can't stress enough how much of an improvement this is to your quality of life.